Hey guys, welcome back to Tell to Trevor. I'm your host, Trevor Shelley, and today on my podcast I have.
The flapjack eating, syrup drinking, lumber hauling axeman, Sawdust.
Alright, so what sparked your interest in the professional wrestling industry?
So when I first started watching wrestling, it was like early 90s. It was like the beginning of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah,
So it's like characters like Doink, like Razor Ramon, the kind of base form of the Undertaker, these really like bright characters. Um, and I think that's what first kind of captured my imagination. And then I
back in the
continued watching.
WWF era.
Yeah, WWF era real early, and then I continued watching. And, you know, a few years later, you had the Monday Night Wars, and I used to go over to my neighbors and I'd watch it with my friend and his dad. And we'd literally turn back and forth between WCW, WWF. I remember I was a kid, and one night it was like a Monday night we had to go somewhere, and I was just giving my mom a really hard time because I really wanted to watch wrestling. And then wherever we went, like I made that family put on wrestling. So it's just kind of like uh, stayed
Yeah.
with me through a lot of my youth.
Um, who were the wrestlers that you like idolized as a kid?
I think Bret Hart was definitely one of the first.
Brett.
But now at this time, I'm getting older. I'm going to turn 37 this month. So now I really look at somebody like DDP, because he's well known for starting, I think, in his mid 30s. And I'm kind of in that same age group. So I look back and I think about him a lot too. It's like, okay, well, if he could have done it, I have a chance too. I have an opportunity as well.
That's how would you get your start in the wrestling world?
It's like missed chance by mischance by mischance by finally I'm doing it. I think let's see. I had the fortune of being in Germany for a little bit of time, and there was a promotion, New European Wrestling, which was um, ran by Alex Wright from WCW, Das Wunderkid. Alex Wright.
Okay.
I went to a training session, and at the time, I thought, I don't really have the money. It's too far away. I can't commit to this. So I'm embarrassed to say I didn't stick with it. I went to watch a few shows, but didn't do any of the training.
Yeah.
Fast forward to another spot. I'm in Okinawa, Japan, and they have a promotion, Ryukyu Dragon Pro Wrestling. So I would go and watch, and there was an Australian there, Brian Cannon. He's wrestled under a couple different names, Kijimuna, and usually like Dingo or Dingo Cannon, something like that. But I was watching, I'm like, this guy's Australian, so he speaks English. I don't know about the rest of the Japanese guys, but I would go and talk to him, and I'd say, hey, how do I become a wrestler? And literally, I had to go to like 3 shows in a row because he kept kinda shooing me off, and then eventually he said, "Alright, I'll train you. I need you to start, meet me at this place on these dates," and it wasn't even a wrestling ring, like, we met in a, like, karate studio.
Okay.
So, there wasn't even ropes or turnbuckles or anything. He just started teaching us, like, how to lock up and, to do basic holds. And then like we're literally like running invisible ropes. Like it was so silly. He's like, okay, now run that way and turn around. It's like whoop, 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 whoop. And then you turn
Yeah.
around and you roll over somebody else. And we were just starting to get into the ring with the Japanese promotion. So I had a couple training sessions in the ring, and then COVID hit and just ruined everything like it did everybody else. And then wrestling kind of got put on the back burner until I got to North Carolina, and I got in with Carolina Wrestling Academy.
Okay.
So I've been there for about 3 years, and I
And
think
who
it,
runs that promotion?
so Carolina Wrestling Academy is the school. So there's a handful of coaches there. The Carino family, Kobe
Okay.
Carino, Ryan Gallion. Um,
Bojack.
Bojack, yeah, I think you just interviewed
Once
him.
you said the Carinos, I was like, okay, I know which school.
Yes, yes, exactly. And then in the same building, as far as like a promotion, there's
Yeah,
Premier Wrestling Federation. So it's two different banners, a lot of the same people, the same location, but they are like separate
yeah.
things. There's Carolina Wrestling Academy and Premier Wrestling Federation, and that kind of that's where I'm at right now.
What was your first wrestling match like?
My first wrestling match was with Kurt Robinson. Right now, Kurt Robinson is up in Pennsylvania. I think he's the coach for Catch Point at the Drew Gulak School. That was my first match, but was what was cool about my first match was my mom was in town visiting.
Oh,
And I said, "Hey, we got to go watch Premier Wrestling Federation. I've been training to be a pro wrestler. Like, let's just watch a show." So of course we got there early, and she just sat back and watched me do all the typical things, like help, lay out chairs and help get the ring ready. And she saw me in there, and I said, "Hey, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna get in and help somebody get ready for their match." She's like, "Sure, sure, whatever." And then the show's starting, and I said, "Hey, I actually need to be in the back because I'm a student here and there's some things I need to do." And she's like,
yeah,
"Okay, cool." And I said, "Just sit here, enjoy the show." And it was like, 10, 15 minutes later, my music played and I came out and she had no idea she was coming to watch my first match. Even though she had been watching me for, the last, 2 hours setting up and intermingling with everybody. So
yeah.
it was really cool that I kind of tricked her into watching my first match. And it was, I was happy that it was with Kurt Robinson. I think we had some really good exchanges, and I would love to have that match again now that I've grown so much in the last 2 years, and especially how much he has too, especially being up at catch point with Gulak.
What are your goals for the future in the wrestling business?
Man, I don't goals like I feel like I just keep showing up and
Yeah,
something will happen. You know what I mean? But I don't want to put too much pressure on myself and say like I need to be here, and if I don't be here, then it wasn't a success. You know what I mean? Because there's guys that have a whole career of professional wrestling and maybe they never make it to the WWE, but that doesn't mean they didn't have something special, right?
yeah,
So I would try to resist saying like, "Oh, I need to get signed or I need to be on TV." That's the goal. Um, I think the goal right now is to just continue to be better, continue to not allow myself to get too comfortable. I'm usually like right outside of my comfort zone. Um, and just keep showing up, just keep being a little bit better. And I am seeing little signs. I'll look at old tape of me, or I see like the gears changed, or the way I'm moving, or the moves I'm doing, or the way I think about wrestling has changed. So it's definitely like a steady upward trend. Um, I just try to be careful to put this, you know, this kind of vision that if this is what success looks like, because I like the analogy of like life's a hallway. There's a bunch of doors down the hallway. One of them's gonna make me happy. I don't want to close any of them. I want to keep them all open. I just don't know which door I'm gonna end up going down, but I'm still going down the hallway. You know what I mean? Is it?
yeah. Can you describe your wrestling persona or a character for someone that has not seen you wrestle, or for the fans that are international around the world?
Yeah, Sawdust. So I go by Sawdust, and I love it for a handful of reasons. I'm originally from Maine, right? So
Okay,
the clearly Sawdust lumberjack logger thing, and at one point Maine was like the lumber capital of the world, so it was a really important industry to that state.
yeah,
So that's part of it. And then I've always kind of been teased by that everywhere I've gone. Like people have called me like logger, lumberjack, or someone once did call me Sawdust teasingly. I mean, these weren't like nicknames that came around with me, but when you're with your buddies and teasing each other, I've heard these like little "Hey, lumberjack, get over here," just teasing me because I'm from Maine. Um, and there's actually some history to sawdust and wrestling. So I've read in the late 1800s, early 1900s, wrestling used to be on sawdust. So
Okay.
you'd have like sawdust laid out and you just put a tarp over it, and that's how you'd have wrestling matches. And this actually exists today in Switzerland. They have a traditional style of wrestling that is there's literally like that. There's a huge bed of sawdust, and they wrestle on it with some sort of belt, and I think it's called Schwingen is the name of that style. So it ties back to where I'm from, and it ties into the history of professional wrestling. And then, the entertainment aspect of it, it's just really easy for anybody to see me to understand what's happening. It's like, okay, I see the tights, I see the flannel, he's got suspenders on, his name's Sawdust, there's a lumberjack, he's going like this, everybody's yelling chop, chop, chop. Um, it's a really easy presentation for everyone to understand.
Can you share a memorable moment from your wrestling career so far?
I think one of the coolest experiences I've had was for 1 week I wrestled at a state fair. So back home in Maine, there was a 10-day fair, and they have wrestling every night at this fair. And I was there for the second week. And not only did I wrestle every night at the fair, what really made it unique was I camped at the fair. Um, so like I would have the wrestling match, and then I would go around the other side of the fair where the campgrounds were, and I had a tent laid out. So I think every morning I did some exercise. Like I went out for a run, and then I went to like a different coffee shop in town, hung out at the fair, rode a couple
Yeah.
rides, ate a few things, and then every night there was wrestling that I got to do. I just released a video on my YouTube channel, Sawdust Wrestles. I think the name of that video was Sawdust Wrestles at the Fair, and it's about 20 minutes, and it's a lot of the footage of my time there. It's little pieces of the wrestling matches, me walking around at the fair, me going on a run, playing some disc golf, and a lot of my ponderings about wrestling at that point. I'd say that's probably one of the coolest experiences I've had so far.
Can you share the feeling of winning your first championship?
So I've not had a traditional championship belt
Okay.
yet. But one of the promotions I wrestle at is Gouge, Gimmicks Only Underground Entertainment in Raleigh, North Carolina. Um, and they have a little trophy. I won that little trophy. Um, I'm doing this off the top of my head. The trophy was the Spaceman Frank Hickey Scientific Wrestling Memorial Trophy. So I was the recipient of the Spaceman Frank Hickey Scientific Wrestling Memorial Trophy from Gimmicks Only Underground Grappling Entertainment in Raleigh, North Carolina. um, and it's a really fun show, and it was a really fun moment to win a match and then get presented, a little trophy. I got to wave that for the crowd, and that's somewhere I got to bring with me for a couple matches. But still chasing, a traditional championship belt. I think on two occasions at Premier Wrestling Federation, this close for a tag team championship. There was a unique circumstance where um, there was supposed to be a tag team championship match. Bojack and his partner Diego Hill were number one contenders. Diego Hill was not there, so it was Bojack by himself. Well, there was a weird circumstance where myself and my tag team partner, the Sigma male LDJ, also had a claim to the number one contendership. So I entered that match, and we had Bojack and Sawdust, or some people were saying Bodust, or maybe Sawjack. I don't know what the team name was supposed to be, but the two of us entered together, won the match, had championship belts in our hand, and then they made the announcement that wasn't an official match, and it was got the belt pulled right out of my hands. Um, so I'm
Uh,
still chasing that first championship
yeah.
belt.
How do you handle the mental and emotional aspects of wrestling?
Ooh. Um, hmm. One thing I like about where I train at Carolina Wrestling Academy is we really recognize how much effort someone is putting forth
Yeah.
um, for themselves, right? So, for example, maybe somebody rolling forward, maybe that's a really scary thing for them and that's difficult, but you can tell they're overcoming fear. They're going to get just as much praise as somebody that might be jumping through the middle rope or jumping off from the top rope. We just really recognize um, that somebody is trying. And when they're trying, it doesn't matter what the task is. We just see that they're trying and we all support each other. So I'm really fortunate to be with Carolina Wrestling Academy and be around people that are supportive, that'll say, "Hey, I believe in you. I think you can do that." They want you to try things. So having a support network uh, definitely is an edge to help with some of um, the mental blocks you might get.
All right. So we're gonna start this segment called Triv Shock. I don't know if you've heard of that before. If you've
Yeah, I think
listened,
it's like you got a speed round, I think.
yes. At least someone on the podcast I've had on here recognizes.
No,
I've had
I listen. I'm a fan.
okay. I had my best one of my close friends. I wouldn't say my best friend, but one of my close friends, Pastor Wesley Snell, that
Hmm.
was just aired on Saturday. Um, I was surprised because his questions I had to rewrite it to fit him because he's the pastor of the church.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So everybody goes to me like, "Was he even a wrestler?" And I'm like, "No." I was like, I want to kind of do this where I go around to local businesses around my town,
Hmm.
bring them on, and interview them. Try to
Yeah.
help bring their business up and everything, and help them grow and everything.
Yeah, that's good. That's a really positive thing.
Like tomorrow, I got one of my other friends. He owns a fencing company,
Hmm.
so he's gonna be driving from his last um, client, and then driving over here just to record and everything. So, all right. So, which you know the rules already by now. The rules of Trev Shock. You have 50 seconds to answer 6 questions.
Let's do it.
All right. And I don't know if you know the record number.
No, I don't.
35 seconds remaining by
Oh,
Corey Dillinger.
Corey Dillinger, 35 seconds.
Yes.
Hmm.
This episode, it was when we debuted our official theme song by Vaughn Williams,
Hmm.
Thunder and Lightning. Because I was like, let's just throw some play on words for a song, hit him up. And that's straight up how we got that song. Because I was like, he does it for the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep.
Why not just see if I can use it in every song, every episode, which still trying to figure out how to do all that editing software. So, um, all right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Favorite pre-show snack,
Sugar-free Rockstar and peanut butter crackers.
pre-show song,
I don't have a specific song. I've got like a Sawdust playlist on my Spotify. Virginia Highway is one song that comes to mind though.
favorite wrestler growing up,
Hmm. Uh, Bret Hart.
favorite sports team,
Oh. Um, I'll say Jacksonville Jaguars.
favorite color,
Blue.
favorite type of music.
Um, Usually metal, but I listen to a lot of different things.
So you beat it with 25 seconds remaining.
25. I'm the new champion.
Nope, it's 35.
Oh, 35 remaining. Oh no. I heard it wrong.
Yeah. Um, what are the biggest challenges of being a professional wrestler outside of the ring?
Outside of the ring challenges. Hmm. I tell new students or new trainees that you're about 4 to 6 months away from your first booking. And what I mean by that is usually it's 4 to 6 months from the time you shook someone's hand to when they're actually going to kind of give you an opportunity and let you in the circle. So there's a lot of times where you just have to make the drive with no promises of anything happening and going and helping out. And you really have to have a mindset of service to other people without expecting them to give you anything in return. And when you've demonstrated that a few times, that's when people will start trusting you and they'll start bringing you in and you'll have opportunities. That's just difficult because it's hard to go somewhere where you don't know anybody. Maybe you only know one or two people, but there's 60 people in a room.
Yeah,
So that's difficult to introduce yourself and sell yourself to people that you don't know. And then, maybe, honestly, you don't have the time or money to travel somewhere on a maybe. Right, but that is one of the harder things outside of the ring, is just getting away from maybe where you train and your home promotion. It's ready to go somewhere else, and it's challenging. It can take a lot of time, a lot of
yeah.
time.
How do you feel about the wrestling side of the business and promotions? How they shape the storylines?
Mm. In what way? What do you mean?
So the business side of wrestling, that's a separate question. So like, how do you feel about like, for example, how WWE's running their business and
Yes, I mean, storylines are important, and
yeah,
they're 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 really important. I think sometimes we don't take full advantage of storylines. Or if we have good storylines, maybe we don't take advantage of social media so everybody sees the storylines that are happening. Um, there's a lot of downtime sometimes when you're waiting for matches, you're waiting for rings to be set up, and that's time that we could be using to establish storylines or to get more content on social media. So I know that's one thing for myself I've been thinking about a lot is, hey, if I'm at a show early, what can I be doing right now, that's going to push the storyline, make the storyline be more coherent to other individuals, to the fans, um, and to everybody that's watching the product.
let's if you could wrestle any legendary wrestler from the past, who would it be and why?
Hmm. I could wrestle anybody legendary.
Any legend.
See, I feel like I should be giving this like really technical answer. I should be like, well, I want to wrestle DDP because of what I mentioned earlier. I want to wrestle like
Yeah.
Razor Ramon Scott Hall because he's just so cool or all those things. But like the things that are like immediately coming to my mind is like what would be the most fun match? Um, like I'm thinking about Grizzly Redwood because he was a lumberjack character, and it's like okay, I would like that clash. Or I've been really getting into Shikara and some of the like comedy wrestling. Los Ice Creams are hilarious to me. It's like that would be such a fun tag team match to have.
Yeah.
Um, and then, I mean, if I was to give a more serious, like, okay, you can do anything in the world, maybe something like Wrestle the Von Erichs in Texas, just to feel what that energy feels like when the Von Erichs come in and you hear the hometown crowd cheering for them and that like electricity in the air, where it's big, but it's not stadium big, so it's still close. I'm sure it was something special.
Let's see. If you could go to a wrestling seminar session with any wrestler, who would you pick?
Hmm. somebody like Chad Gable or
Chad.
Gunther
Okay.
maybe. Just because I like the way they're wrestling. It's mat-based technical wrestling, and I like that style. And that style seems to lose touch to, the more high-flying things or the bigger moves that seem, to catch the eye. So it would be nice to listen to top guys that really base their style around mat wrestling.
If you could have a wrestling legend as your mentor, who would you choose?
Hmm. I think oh, one person might be Gorgeous George. Uh,
Okay.
just because his ability to get under the crowd's skin without the wrestling aspect. Um, and I really like this idea of, watching him wrestle and just thinking like this is one of the first times somebody has like portrayed this type of arrogance. And I'm not a bad guy, but in terms of like understanding wrestling, he really understood it. He
Yeah.
was able to really control the crowd. Um, and I think somebody that has that type of psychology, I'd really like to listen to.
What's your opinion on the wrestling crossover events with other sports or entertainment industries?
Like having non-wrestlers be a
Yeah.
part of like a wrestling show. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely a place for it. Um, there's definitely a place for it, and it helps because it brings in a different fan base. It's
Yeah.
really hard when, like we really like wrestling, and we spend all day watching it, and we know all these indie things and these critical moments in history. And if something happens on WWE, we kind of know it was a callback to something 20 years ago, and we forget that most people don't know any of that. We kind of take it for granted. So it does take a crossover star to show up for a new fan base to come over and say, "What is this?" and to hopefully keep them.
Yeah.
But I feel like on the indies, I don't see that happening. And maybe that's something, on the indie level, you don't necessarily like have a star, probably. It's probably not in the budget, but um, I know typically some promotions, if they do something with the school, they'll probably do something with the school principal, and that kind of generates some interest, or like the school like football coach or something like that.
Yeah.
And those are great for that community. I think that works really well. I'm wondering what more can we do? I'm not sure what that thing is, but we've got to harness that and do just a little bit more to bring in more people for these shows.
What advice would you give to an aspiring wrestler?
Go slow. This is very hard, very hard. Um, you're gonna have to hear things over and over again. Um, I can think of some things my coaches told me that it wasn't until match 70 where I said, "Oh, that's what you've meant for the last year and a half." Now it's the first time I have like an experience to match it. Um, Go slow, listen to your coaches. It takes a lot of time. I had a practice match once, and it didn't go great. I was a little pouty afterwards. I was a little upset, and somebody came up to me and they said, "What are you upset about? The match was good." And I said, "I know it was good, but I just can't wait to be great." And this guy had been wrestling for like 10 years, and he kind of just he nodded and said, "Yeah, I know. It just takes time, man. You're doing fine. You're on the path. Um, be patient and just keep going. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. It'll pay dividends."
Can you talk about a significant? rivalry you had and how it helped you grow as a wrestler?
Um, still in them, still in them. So, United Pro Wrestling Association, um, in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm having a problem with Bobby Wolford. He's their light heavyweight champion. I've had a couple title matches with him. Back to what we said earlier, have yet to have a traditional championship. Um, two matches, he's cheated in both. He's grabbed the ropes to hold me down for a pin. We got a rematch because the manager saw the boss man said, "Let's redo this match." He cheated in that match. I was in a tag tournament in this promotion in Wilmington, UPWA. Pulled my feet underneath me, held my feet. Me and my tag partner lost the match because of it. And then more recently, he was attacking somebody, Joseph Everhart. I came to Joseph's aid. Him and his buddies attacked me. He put my foot into a chair, hit the chair with a chair, caused damage to my foot, which nearly sidelined me. It probably should have sidelined me, but I'm a little stubborn. I had more fight in me, so I kept wrestling over the last 2 months. Recently, a Premier Wrestling Federation. We had a show at Mac Daddy's, I think, a month ago. Jumped off the top rope and connected with an axe handle, but when I hit the floor, when I hit the mat, I knew there was something wrong with my foot. And I knew I'd made a big mistake not taking myself out of the ring. I should have stopped when Bobby attacked me. I should have just, just called off all the matches, but I didn't want to cancel bookings. So I kept wrestling. Um, and now I'm looking, I got a doctor's appointment this week to try to figure out uh, what's really going on with my foot because I have a feeling that um, it wasn't a good idea to keep wrestling and I might be taking a little break. Um, but more to follow on that.
See the next question. What was it like working with a particular wrestler you really clicked with in the ring?
Um, I went to California in SoCal Pro Wrestling School, and I just did a drop in. I didn't want to miss training, so I called them up. I said I was close by. Can I come for training? And I was very polite, and I went through all the warm up drills, and I did the first couple drills, and the coach kind of looked at me and he said, "Hey, Sawdust, why don't you get in the ring, and I want you to wrestle this guy over here." I said, "Oh," in my head, I said, "Oh, great. This is probably like their best student. And now everybody's sitting down and watching, and I'm this guy from North Carolina, and they're like feeling me out or something." And I just felt really on the spot. And I wish I had taped it because we wrestled for about 3 minutes and it was really simple, but we clicked so well. It was something like he gave me an arm drag, and I just got up and I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna give you an arm drag. I'm gonna find a way." And 30 seconds later, I give him an arm drag, and all the trainees are like clapping and saying yay. And then next I give him a headlock takeover, and 30 seconds later, a minute later, he found a way and he gives me a headlock takeover. And there was this just give and pull that we connected so well. Like we knew what was going to happen next, or the next thing that we wanted to happen. And what a unique experience. That was in training, and I'll do a shout out for Diego Hill. The first time I was in the ring with Diego Hill, it was my tag team partner, LDJ, the Sigma male, where we are the Sigma Mills, versus the high flying star machines, Bojack and Diego Hill. So Diego and I are starting off. Referee says ring the bell. There's about 1 second we don't move, and then the crowd comes up already. The crowd's all go Diego go, go Diego go, and we sit in that moment and we just kind of stare before we start moving, and the crowd's getting louder and it's getting louder. And I remember thinking, is it like this every time you're in the ring? Because at that point, I had not felt it that way. That was a big match. I had a lot emotionally vested into that. and to feel that right at the beginning, like, man, I can feel the energy in the crowd. I feel something in the air that's not typical. This is something
Yeah.
special. So I just like I want to chase that. You know, whatever that thing was, I want more of that. I want to chase that more.
Can you describe your training process and what's the most challenging part of learning to wrestle?
Most challenging part of learning to wrestle. Well, it's challenging because there's so many different styles, right? Are
Yeah.
you gonna be like a technical mat wrestler? Are you gonna like run the ropes a lot? Are you gonna do um, high flying stuff? Are you a tag team wrestler? Because that's a whole nother thing. Um, so one, you got to work through that. Like, which part of this thing do I really want to do? And then as you learn those things, you find something you like, and then you realize, well, somebody else does that thing. You know, like I can't do that move. Like this guy's doing that, which is the
Yeah.
worst. Um, it's you have to learn all of it, and then at some point you've got to start specializing, and it's a difficult process.
Let's see. What hobbies bring you joy outside of the wrestling world?
Photography. I'm a pretty good
Photography.
photographer. I That's kind of how I started meeting people in wrestling. While I was
Okay.
still training as a trainee, I was going and taking photos of matches. And I think the advantage of a wrestler doing photography is that I have a feel for wrestling. So I kind of know when a move is going to happen. Like when the move is getting set up, I'm like, okay, I need to position this way for the photo because they're going to go up or they're moving in this direction. So I've had some incredible photos. I'm trying to learn how to edit. I spend a lot of time in CapCut. So if you look at my social media, particularly my Instagram, like all those reels, that stuff I edit. Um, what's another thing? Those are those are kind of the forefront, photography and the editing I'm trying to learn.
Let's see. What is your favorite gear that you have ever had made?
I haven't had a lot of sets made. I had a My original gear was just black and red trunks, traditional flannel pattern trunks, which I like that. The problem is there's so many people that just wear flannel just because.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a bummer to show up to a show. Here I am in black tights with red flannel trunks over it, and then somebody else is wearing a flannel, but there's nothing else on their gear that's flannel. They just want to wear a flannel. It's like, oh man, that's taken away. So I did a yellow and blue set of flannel, but what I've settled on right now is it's like a grungy style. It's red, white, and blue, but it's heavily faded. So the front of the trunks are that heavily faded flannel. The back of it is black, has a big saw and it says Sawdust through it. And then I have matching knee pad covers. And it really pops with black tights. So I'll wear black tights,
Yeah.
the knee pads with the knee pad covers, and then those trunks over it. And I really like that design. And I think that's a design I'll keep with. I just need to start alternating colors every time that I want to change it up to something else. Like I definitely need like a green and a blue and an orange and a handful of other colors. But I think that format is something I want to keep.
Okay. Um, where can they find you on social media?
All of my socials are Sawdust Wrestles, but I would tell you to first go to my website, which is sawdustwrestles.com. Go to the website. I have tons of merch. I have shirts just like this one. I have shirts and sweatshirts and coffee cups and a whole bunch of different things on there. That also has a link to all my social medias. Of the social medias, Instagram is where I'm the most active. But I do have TikTok, I do have Facebook, I do have X.
And then thank you, Sawdust, for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so
Um,
much, Trevor. I appreciate it.
which I think you've heard by now. We have a T-shirt contest going on.
Yeah, tell me about it. What are the rules? How do I enter? How does this work?
All right. So if you go to the link tree on the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
um, YouTube, there's one that says wrestlers only. So if you're just a wrestler that's been on the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
you go in there. But if you're a wrestler that's a fan that has not been on the podcast, where you're just a fan that just wants to try to win this contest, you do all that. So they're both the same. You put which design you want. There's 5 designs. Um, you pick your shirt size, and then your name, and then your Instagram, so I can hit you up and be like, "Hey, you won the contest," or make a little promo and be like, "Congratulations to Sawdust, you just won the T-shirt contest." And Billy Ty Joseph.
No, that's cool. I'm gonna check that out on your link, all your socials, link tree.
Yeah, yeah.
Wrestlers
I just
only.
haven't updated it on YouTube, Facebook, and X. So mainly just on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
because we're currently in the process of getting a website made.
Very cool. Very cool.
And then thanks to sponsors of TBD Wrestling, which they just had their first show.
Yeah. Congrats, TBD.
Did you go to that show by any
I
chance?
wasn't able to. Oh no. I wasn't able to, but a lot of those are a lot of people that I care about were there, and
Yeah,
I'm very happy and I'm very proud of them for what they put together. It was a huge success from everything I'm seeing.
yeah. I was gonna go to it, and then I looked at the drive. It was like a 4-hour drive, and I was like,
Yeah.
if that's the
Yeah.
case, I'll go get a hotel. If I was actually
Yeah, we're out on
because
the coastline.
yes, because my other 2 sponsors are like 40 minutes from me. Like we have Apple City Championship Wrestling
Yeah.
ACCW,
Mm-hmm.
which Diego and Bojack have been on there multiple times,
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
and then Wrestling Evolution,
Yeah, very cool.
which I think people by now probably got the hint that there's a deal going on because every time they got a show, I'm promoting every single match.
Hmm. I hope to see you there.
Yep. All right. I gotta go hop onto my next one in a minute, so let me hit this.
Thank you again, Trevor. Chop chop.